What's up, guys? Are you looking to light up the night? Well, SuperATV's got the answer with our 5-foot RGB whips, and we're going to show you how to get them installed on this Honda Talon. The first thing we're going to do is go ahead and remove all 4 seat bases, since we're working on a 4-seater today. We're just going to reach on the front of the seat. There'll be a lever. You just lift up on it, and the cushion will remove just like this. Then we're going to remove all of the push pins, securing the front center console into place. What I like to do is take a screwdriver, just a flathead, and just kind of angle it in there and peel the center section out. They come out fairly easily once you get them underneath there. Once you do that, they just come right apart. You can see they pop together. What you do, just take your flathead screwdriver, just work it in there, and then they just pull out by hand. Once you've removed all the hardware, just pick up on your center console and slide it back, and go ahead and remove it from the machine. So moving on to the rear, we're going to go ahead and remove all of the push pins, securing the rear center console to the machine as well. Before you can remove your rear center console, you want to reach up through here, and you're going to have your accessory plug here. It's going to push down on the pins and then remove it. And then you can grab your rear center console and just lift it right up and out. So for this install, we're going to be installing the SuperATV rocker switch panel, which I highly recommend that you use. Great design, and it gives you 4 extra slots for your rocker switches. It's the only way to install a rocker on these machines, and the best way. But whenever you install that, you have to make room for your wiring to run through your cubby here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a drill, we're going to go right here into the corner, and we're just going to open this hole up enough that we can feed wires through it. So we got it large enough to where our rocker switch harness here will slide right through the hole. Just like that, that's all you need. And then we're going to start running our wiring. So the next thing we're going to do is grab our harness. And you're going to have a few different leads. You're going to have your hot and your ground, which will be here. You're going to have your 2 bullet connectors that are going to go into the controller. And then you're going to have this plug, which is going to be plugged into your rocker switch. We're going to grab these leads right here. So you're going to have your relay, your hot and your ground, and this plug. And we're going to feed them straight up underneath the dash, as far as we can get them. So we went ahead and pulled all of our wires through. Like I said, you wanted to make sure that you have your rocker switch plug, your hot and your ground leads, and then your relay. So on the Talon, they have a factory plug that is a dummy plug. It's located right here. So you're gonna have a hot, which is your white, and then a ground, which is your green. They're not pre-wired from the factory. So we went ahead and wired up a plug. You have to pin them. You can wire it up any way you'd like, but this is the way that we prefer to do it. So we'll plug this in. So now we're wired up. We got it so we have our hot and our ground wired in, ready to go. So now we just need to make a connection here. So obviously these terminals are not going to work for this specific application, which obviously these whip lights are universal. So what we're going to do is we're going to connect the black to the black, and then our red to our red. We advise that you use a heat shrink connector. That's what we're going to be using today. Once we have our connections made, we're going to take this wire and run it through the hole in the console, in the cubby hole that we drilled. So we have our connections made. We did use a heat shrink connector, but anytime I do wiring, I like to go through and tape it up as well. It just makes sure you're keeping the elements out. And we all know when you're riding off-road, you're going to get in that mud, you're going to get in the water, dirt, debris, wherever you ride. So if you can protect your electrical connections just a little bit more, it's always worth that little bit extra time. So we're just gonna tape them a few inches past our connections. That way we know we got them good and sealed up. And if you wanted to get really fancy with it, you could just get a whole big piece of heat shrink or wire loom. You know, however you wanna do it, options are endless. Today, we're just showing you how to wire these up. So we're not gonna go that in depth on camera, but obviously do it however you like to wire things up. So now we're gonna grab this connector, reach up underneath the dash, and we're gonna be able to see the hole that we drilled through our cubby. That's another thing that's awesome about our switch panel that we offer. You don't have to zip tie all your wires up when you want to tuck them away and make them look clean. You can tuck them into that cubby. It's a lot easier. You know, tying wires up really tight, that causes resistance. Resistance causes heat, and obviously heat causes fires. So obviously we don't want any fires. We don't want you guys having any fires or anything like that. So we're not going to zip tie these wires, our excess up, for this switch. We're just going to tuck them all in there really nicely. So now that that's kind of ran where we want it to be, obviously everything's still kind of mocked up at this point. You know, nothing's set in stone where it's going to be. We're not all wired up yet from front to rear. We need to figure out where we want our relay. Now again, I'm going to wait until probably the end to figure out where I want to mount this. I'm just going to leave it hanging here, that way I know that I need to come back through and wire it in. So now we're going to head back into the machine and start wiring up our controller. So we just started running our wires back. I want to stay with the factory harness as much as I can. It's routed like that for a reason. Obviously it's away from all the heat, the prop shaft, everything like that. It's just always a good idea to follow the factory harness regardless. So we're gonna look up through here and we're gonna make sure that we're below, you know, anything that is gonna make the wiring just kind of look bad and just cobbled up. So again, we're just gonna follow factory harness. We're gonna get it back to this point right here. And then we're just gonna let these wires hang. So for the next part is the controller. This controller is very simple to hook up. You only have 2 blade connectors out of all of these wires. So you have your red and your black. If you look on your harness here, you have a red and a black. So obviously, black goes to black. So go like this, black to black, red to red. We're not going to connect ours yet though. We need to figure out how we are going to run our whip light leads. Now where you're going to run your whip light leads all depends upon where you're going to run your whip lights to. So we showed you how to do that, and my plans are to start running them back up through here, but we need to figure out the best way that we can possibly route them, because obviously you have a left and you have a right. So this one's gonna go this way, this one's gonna go that way. So driver, passenger. We need to go back here to the rear and figure out where we want our whips. We're gonna look around, find the best spot to run our wires up through. So on the Talons, unlike some of the other machines, they don't have a lot of holes, you know, that you can feed wire through or anything of that nature. So my plan is I'm probably gonna end up drilling a hole through my factory bed. You know, just so I can run my wires a little bit cleaner. If you come over here to this side, the driver's side, if you look up through here, you can feel the factory taillight harness running. So I'm gonna run my wires right with the taillight harness, and then right up in here, where it's nice and tucked away, I'm probably gonna drill just a small hole, just big enough to get my lead, my connector through there, and I plan on mounting my whip lights right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the whip lights wired, or mounted up. We're gonna grab our whip light brackets, which if you guys already have brackets for your whips, you could have purchased them off the website with the brackets for the Talon. We did that. We're going with the horizontal mounts today. Personally, I just like the horizontal mount. It looks really good, looks really clean. That's what we're gonna be using today. So we're gonna get it clamped on right around here in this vicinity, and then we're gonna show you how we're gonna run our wiring. So we're gonna grab our clamps. We're gonna go ahead and remove the nylock nut, and then remove the screw as well. Take this piece off, and you're gonna see inside of the clamp you're gonna have some foam. You're gonna take this foam, peel a little bit off, and just run it right here. As you can see, it has like a knurled section in the clamp. That's where you want your foam. If you go past that, it makes the clamp a little bit harder to get installed. So once we get it where we want it, you can just peel it right off. It's easy enough. So it should look just like this. And I like to have the cutout side, that's the flat, that's the cutout side. I like to have it facing towards the back. So just whenever you slide it on your cage, just make sure that you have it going kind of towards the rear or towards the front. I do apologize. That way it's not facing outward. So whenever we go to install our other portion of our clamp here, I like to make sure that the threads are down as well. It just makes it look a little bit cleaner, looks nicer. And we'll take the screw and it's gonna go through on the flat side of the bracket. So what you'll have to do is you'll have to crimp this together and you'll get your nut and you'll get it started. Once you have it started, you'll just want to go through, get a couple turns on it, and you don't want to tighten it just yet because you obviously have to get it into position exactly where it needs to be to line up properly. So once you have it started, a couple threads, you'll just want to get it positioned exactly how you want it, and you want to take your bracket. Your bracket will be in the kit. Just want to unwrap it, and you just want to kind of, you know, look it over, figure out exactly how you want it to sit. And obviously you can angle this bracket just a little bit. So we kind of want ours to sit like that. We may rotate it a little bit or rotate it back this way, but that's pretty much the vicinity. We're just going to leave everything loose until we can get our bracket put in place or exactly where we want it. But first we're going to go ahead and repeat the same steps on getting the clamp installed with our lower clamp. Just make sure that your threaded hole is going up just like this. So it should be set up on the cage exactly like that. So now we're going to go ahead and grab our bracket as well as the hardware provided in the kit. It'll be the short Allens with the lock washer. So obviously lock washer and nut, or Allen. It'll just thread on just like this. And we'll just want to rotate the clamps around until we get them right. So we get them lined up on the top and the bottom. And just take your Allen wrench and just make sure you get a good start on them. Now you can rotate this around any way you need. Just get it set up exactly how you want it, and then go ahead and fully tighten your hardware. So we're just going to go ahead and disconnect the base from the whip. All you have to do is grab a hold of the quick detach, pull down on it, and this pulls right out. It's really easy. Pull down, comes right out, no problem. And then we'll just take our hardware off, slide it through the hole, slide our flat washer and then lock washer, then get our nut started. You can pretty much just run it all the way up. All right, so we're gonna pop our whip on just so we can figure out exactly how we want it positioned and all that good stuff. And then once you have it exactly where you want it, just repeat the same steps for the opposite side. So next we're gonna drill a hole through our factory bed. You're gonna have factory hardware right here. We're gonna go right next to it and drill a hole large enough to feed this connector through. So once the hole's drilled, we can just feed our harness straight through. Just repeat these same steps for the opposite side, and then we're gonna start running our harness off of our controller. So now we're just gonna grab our right or our left, whichever one you wanna start with. We're gonna start with the left side of the harness and feed it on top of everything. You just wanna try to get them back there far enough to where you can reach in and get a hold of them. And we'll do that for both sides. And we'll head back to the rear and start feeding our wires. We'll just grab a hold of the wire. And I'm gonna run mine. Pull all the tension out of it, all the slack. I'm gonna run it right up behind the battery box. over top of this. And then we'll just follow that factory harness all the way here to our connector. And there's a little notch you gotta line up on these connectors. And obviously there'll be the same notch on the plug. So you'll just get that slid together and then just tighten the nut. And we're just gonna leave our wires hanging for now, but we are gonna have to come back through and tie them up. Then we'll go over here to the opposite side, locate our wire. We're gonna come over here, grab our harness. This side's made just a little bit differently. So really the best way to route this is gonna be to route it up through here and follow the factory harness all the way up. So it can be a little bit more difficult to do this, but if you pop these lower push pins out, so after you've removed the two lower ones, go ahead and remove the upper one as well. So we'll just pull it down, and we're gonna slide our harness right up here to where it fits in this little channel with the factory harness. Then we'll just slide our panel back up into place. Now as you can see, it's running like the factory harness is. It's gonna be so much nicer, a lot cleaner, without a doubt. Then we can just make our connection. Then once you've made your connection, just go ahead and put the push pins back in. So we're ready to get our rocker switch installed. So what we're gonna need to do is just go ahead and pop out one of these knockouts here. I'll just get rid of that. Not gonna need that anymore. We can take our rocker switch. Obviously make sure that the LED lighted whip is facing towards the bottom. We'll just get it lined up and just slide it right in. Just like that. And then what we're gonna do, go ahead, make our connection. So once our connection's made, again, like I told you earlier, I don't want to bundle up a bunch of wires and zip tie them very tightly at all, or at all if possible. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this bundle of wire here and just tuck it into the actual cubby. Now if you want to tie these up and do it a little bit neater, you absolutely can, but nobody's ever going to see it except for you whenever you remove it. So I just don't feel like it's needed to tie those wires up personally. So we are going to get it set in here to where it's sitting good and straight. And we're going to take the provided screws, apply some pressure, and then do the same thing for the rest of the screws. So we went ahead and just mounted our relay right here, so that way our plug's facing down. That way if you do get any water or anything, it's going to want to drain out of it. Once you've done that, obviously go through, make sure all the wiring's tied up how you like it. Once you've done that, that's how super quick and easy it is to install SuperATV's 5-foot RGB whips on this Honda Talon 1000. For more information on these whips or any of SuperATV's great products, feel free to give us a call at 855-743-3427 or check us out online at superatv.com. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.